So on my last Slow Cheetah lesson, I got some comments suggesting that I should do a part 2 of it, and the video is overall doing really well, which is very cool to see. So yeah, here I am doing a part 2, and before we jump right into it, I just want to briefly talk about it. So this focuses on the bridge and the outro, which both features fingerpicking, and yeah, we'll also briefly mention the chorus because then we got the whole song down, but the focus is on the fingerpicking. And I think the fingerpicking in these parts, the bridge and the outro, is a little bit more tricky than the previous lesson, and I had to practice a lot myself, to be honest, to get this down. And the trick really is to focus on exactly what notes to play and exactly what fingers to use when you pluck the strings, and get that really clear to yourself and practice it slowly. Do not focus on speed, just practice exactly how to play it and do it a couple of days, and each night, you know, when you sleep on it, it gets programmed into your muscle memory. At least that's how it works for me. And when you program all of it into your muscle memory, then speed is really no issue. So yeah, that is my suggestion. And I also want to say that the way John really switches up the fingerpicking pattern alters the vibe of the song in a really cool way, and especially the outro is something that, you know, you typically do not add to a song, but they did in this case, and I'm really glad they did because it created a really cool vibe. So yeah, let's jump right into the bridge. So now it's time to learn the bridge, which consists of 2 chords, the G major chord, and the G major chord is obviously relative to the capo on the 6th fret, which is true for everything I will say from this time on, obviously. And then the second chord is the A sus2 chord, and sometimes we add the third to make it an A minor chord. And when it comes to the fingerpicking pattern, you can split it up into 4 parts. So the first part is exactly like the verse pattern. So we use 1 finger per string, starting with the thumb on the low E, and the pattern is playing 8th notes, and then the second last note is a 16th note. And after that, the pattern goes like this. And here I think it's more valuable that I just show the tab as someone competent in my last video and just play it slowly. I think that's more effective. So the pattern for this part is a little bit more slowly. Again. And notice here that for the first part of the pattern we assign our fingers like this, but now we move our fingers down 1 string, like this. So be very mindful of using the correct fingers, because in the long run I think it will help you. And we will assign our fingers like this for the rest of the bridge. So the whole finger picking pattern for the G chord is slowly. Again. And now we move on to the A sus2 chord, and the first half of the pattern is exactly like the verse again. So, and notice we keep our fingers assigned like this. So the pattern is, and the other half of the pattern goes like this. So notice that we add the third in the middle of the chord by putting our index finger on the 1st fret on the B string. So again, slowly. So we play the B string 3 times, and the second time we add the 3rd. So the whole A sus2 chord is right. So now we got all the notes and what fingers to use, and now we can start to build that into our muscle memory by playing along to a metronome. And it is originally in 90 BPM, but I think we can start with 60 BPM and work our way up. And the time signature is a classic 4/4 time signature. So here we go. I don't know if you noticed, but we played it 3.5 times. So, you know, play 3 times and then you play the G pattern and then you end on the A sus2 chord, because that is how it is played originally in the song. And you know, then you strum this and jump into the chorus. So yeah, just wanted to mention that. So when you got that down securely, confidently, you can move on to next level, which is 75 BPM. And again, we play it like the original song 3.5 times. So here we go, 75 BPM. Nice, and when you can play that confidently without rushing it, you can move on to 90 BPM, full speed. So here we go. Nice. And now we are ready for the outro, and it pretty much consists of 2 parts, you know. That's the first part, and then we have this part. You know, kind of that. So yeah, let's start with the first part. And as you noticed, I played it like this, but you can, I guess, think of it as a C chord where you add the 9 that transforms into a G chord. So maybe that's a more natural approach, but I like to just fret it like this. So that is 3rd fret on the E, A, and B string, and then the rest strings are open. Because then the strings can ring out nicely. But I guess it's up to you to decide how you want to do it. By the way, I think this is like a C add 9/G chord, so you know, not your typical kind of chord. But anyway, you assign your finger like this, so your thumb takes care of the lower strings, and then the index finger for the G, the middle finger for the B string, and the ring finger for the high E string. And I'll just play slowly, and then you look at the tabs. So what we got is again. So I don't know if you noticed that I lied a bit there, because you actually break the how you assign the fingers. So on the last 2 notes I played like this. So so I kind of shift my fingers, you know, down from this to this, and also add my thumb here. So we kind of switch how we assign the fingers in the middle of this part of the outro. So again, now with that in mind, what you got is and now with your fingers assigned like this, you switch to the A sus2 chord. So your fingers are assigned like this. And then you simply just alternate between the 2 outer strings and the 2 inner strings 2 times. So yeah, that's really all there is to it. So playing it slowly, everything, we got Again, a little bit faster. And yeah, we will work our speed up soon, but I think it's nice to learn the other part as well, and then we can play along to a metronome. So the other part, I would call it the E major part, because it starts with an E chord, and it goes like this. Your fingers are assigned like this, one finger per string, and starting with the thumb on the A string, and the pattern is. And then you do the same thing, but you now start with the low E string instead of the A string, and you also lift up your index finger. So putting that together, slowly we got. Again. I think we can play it one more time because we use this quite a lot. We always use this pattern, but when it comes to the other chord, which is again the A sus2 chord, we actually switch up the pattern a lot. And the first pattern is like this, and by the way, the fingers are assigned like this, so just like before in the other part of the outro. So no matter how you play the A sus2 chord here, you always assign your fingers like this. And the first pattern is. So a little hammer on there. Again. A little bit faster. So yeah, what we got so far slowly is. And then you repeat it. But now we switch up the pattern on the A sus2 chord. And it is like this. So yeah, not super complicated, I guess. Again. I guess we do it one more time. And now we almost got the whole outro. It's just that there is a slight variation. So let's go through the structure of it. Now we have gone through the two parts. So the first part is. And you play that part 3 times, and then you move on to this other part, the E major part. And you do that whole thing that we just did. And after that, you do this again. And you do that 3 times, and then you go back to this E major part. But the difference now is that you switch the order of the A sus2 pattern. And you also switch up the timing a little bit on the what now becomes the first A sus2 pattern, and that might sound a little bit confusing, but it's not too complicated. So when we get to the E major run, or whatever we want to call it, the second time of the outro, it goes like this. Now what we got is. So the first time we did this run, we played. But now we play. So the difference is where you put the little break there. The first time we put the break in between the 2 notes on the G string. So, but now we put it before the 2 notes, so it becomes 2 fast notes on the G string. And after that, it is the same as before, but like I said, switched order. So the whole E major run the second time slowly is. That hammer on part, and then you end the whole outro by playing that thing again 3 times, and you can kind of fade it out, if you will, towards the end. And yeah, that is actually the whole outro, and now I think we can start to practice it by playing along to a metronome. And it is a really cool time signature because it's actually in 7/8 time signature, so in 60 BPM. So what you got is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, and so on. So that is really cool. You can really tell that there is something different, in the vibe with this kind of outro. I think you need this unusual time signature to maybe create that effect. But anyway, it is originally in 60 BPM, but I think we can do it in 45 BPM, and I think we can do the whole outro. So yeah, here we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah, practice that until you feel secure playing it. And then we can move on to 60 BPM, full speed. 7/8 time signature. Here we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So great, now you got all the fingerpicking patterns for the song, and I think I can end with just briefly mentioning the chorus, so you got the whole song down. And the chorus is not really that hard, so it's just actually a C chord, a G chord where we add the 5th here on the B string, and then an A sus2 chord which you transform into a minor chord by adding the 3rd, like we do so many times in this song. And the strumming pattern is actually more like, you know, that Danny California kind of vibe, so not like I did in the first part of this lessons. At least it is like that on the C and the G chord, so you know. But on the A sus2 chord it is more flowing, you know. And when I do that, I focus on the lower strings, which I also fret with my fingers, because otherwise, if I hit the open strings, it doesn't really create that, you know, staccato or rhythmic effect. So that works quite good. But if I play, then the open strings ring out too much. But yeah, so. So yeah, maybe some open strings were ringing, but I think, at least I think that's alright. It's just to get the general idea, you know. And the chorus is played 3 times, and you end it differently each time by playing just the A sus2 chord. And the first time you just play it quite straightforwardly, if that's a word, and quite short, so, you know. Something like that. And the second time you end it like this. So, you know, quite hard up strums there. And the third time you do something like this. So I have to confess, it's not exactly like that. I just kind of conveyed the general idea, but I haven't studied exactly like the original. And yeah, I can end with saying that, you know, sometimes when you learn a song, I think it's important to learn it note for note and playing to a metronome and use exactly the right fingers and everything in order to really develop as a guitarist. And sometimes I think you can just get the general idea and take it from there. And I think it applies in this case that you really want to focus on the finger picking and getting, you know, that down really solidly. And when it comes to the strumming pattern, at least in this case, I think this is enough. Maybe I'm just lazy. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this lesson, and please let me know what you thought of this one and perhaps what you want to see in the future. But until then, I'll see you in the next one.